Hello and welcome to a very, very special bonus episode of How We Made Your Mother. Ones we like to call general questions.
General questions.
Now I feel like everyone's pausing a little too much. Is there a lag? General questions. General questions.
General questions?
No, Alek.
It's
no.
technology.
You invented this
it's not
damn
him.
game and you can barely play it. Anyway, I'm Josh Radner. I am here with my co-host, Craig Thomas. We are talking about hello, Craig. We're talking about How I Met Your Mother episode, what is this, 10? The Limo? Episode
11.
11.
It's 11. It's 11 because, it's the exact midpoint, right? 11 out of 22, boom, midpoint,
Okay.
Pivoting into what's to come. Yes.
Episode 11, The Limo, which we covered pretty in-depth in the last regular episode. But we are answering your questions about the limo, and we can go a little deeper into the themes here. But Alek, what do you got for us? What did the people want to know about?
Sure. The first one, a question that we did answer in the regular episode, but then she says something very cool that I want to point out. Charlotte 33333. She wants to know about how you shot in the limo, but we did cover that. I just want to mention that she says, I studied this episode in class, and I watched it and read the script about 20 times. I said to her, what class?
Yeah.
And she said, English class, talking about gender dynamics in 2000s sitcoms. Discuss.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, if she wrote a paper or did anything like any material about that, please, Charlotte, send it to us because that would be amazing to see. I'm wondering why does that episode exemplify something about that topic in her mind? Alek, I'm just going to ask you all these questions and as if you have the answers to them.
I don't have
and then you'll talk about them on your general questions later that you do separately from this one.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if something is of its moment culturally, even if it at the time doesn't look like it would be an obvious candidate for a course of study in college, if you're sociologically inclined, historically inclined, like it does make sense to pay attention to, because contained within that is a lot of mores and customs. I mean, it's like Jane Austen or something. Like you want to know about that time, look back on what was popular at the time. So. But I am curious. I'm straining to remember. One thing that happens to me is my brain gets hooked on the episode we're currently on, and it's hard for me to get back into the space of Limo, just as it was hard to get back into the actual limo after a break. But what do you guys think regarding gender dynamics within that episode?
I wonder if it was just chosen at random, like if it was just like, well, let's take a How I Met Your Mother episode and just choose it. It's just going to exemplify that year and that time. It was just throwing a dart at the board. It could have been any episode, or if it's this one. I mean, the whole show, we talk about this all the time on this podcast of. There is a gender flip on this show, right? These are men being like sensitive and wanting, Ted and Marshall wanting this sort of like domesticity and wanting to have a family and wanting to get married. And like Barney is obviously the outlier and we're against all that. And then these two women are often sort of like embodying more masculine traits at times, especially Robin, but Lily too, really. And so we did play with that. It wasn't your average sitcom sort of reinforcing old tropes. At the time, I feel like it was kind of fresher tropes are creating its own little world and milieu of it all. I wonder if that's what Charlotte was talking about. I hope so. I hope it wasn't like, this show's terrible in its portrayal. I don't know if she tore out a new one or if she was like, but we definitely liked exploring and sort of subverting some of those older gender tropes on the show for sure.
Yeah, well, certainly that's all at play, and we've all talked about that a little bit, but I also think there's something interesting about how women are portrayed on the show more generally. Robin and Lily and certain other female characters are given, a very rich interior life and dimensionality. And then there are other women who float through as kind of like ditzy Barney toy things,
right.
That kind of like are that week's kind of sacrificial thing at the Barney altar or something. And I think like part of that is set up to show Barney's evolution that he looks at women, he quite literally objectifies them. They are objects, they are playthings, they are it's about width, not depth, like it's about I mean, a kind of crude term is body count. How many women can he be with, even in one night? How many numbers can he get? How many connections can he forge? How many women can he take home or get to their place? But that does set him up for later to be kind of rocked and surprised, and not entirely pleasantly to find himself falling for various women.
And one thing I like better, the thing I like best with Barney about these early episodes or any episodes of the show is watching him, just how much he fails. It's like his ruses work such a slim percentage of the time, and he's clearly making a lot of these numbers up. And in fact, when you see him succeed and he does sort of like lie his way into like hooking up with a woman, it's far less enjoyable to watch, because you're like, no, maybe he shouldn't be succeeding at this. And in that sense, that's sort of like when we have those women on the show, I'm like, oh, we didn't do much. We didn't do them a favor here. Like what, a woman actually being seduced by Barney, like it's not a great role to play. She's sort of in a helpless position at that point. And it's much, I sort of cringe at some of that now. I think the far better thing with Barney is to watch things not work out for him.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the tricky, we've talked about this, but like, we talked about like Oliver Stone and Gordon Gekko, right? Like Oliver Stone is an incredibly left-wing filmmaker who was trying to create a villain. And that villain became a hero to a certain kind of stockbroker dude, posters on the dorm and all kinds of stuff. Greed is good, getting flipped around as if that's a virtue instead of a condemnation. And I think whenever you're trying to portray, let's say like racism or something, it's quite ugly to watch, and you're depending on the good faith interpretation of the audience to see that as something odious, but in the wrong hands, it can be repurposed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when
context really matters here.
When people want me to sign,
but it gets removed from
people want me to sign the bro code, and I sometimes want to say, like, how are you reading this book? Like, what?
This is supposed to be a parody.
And sometimes people adopt it as their life philosophy, and that's always been, I think, your and Carter's difficulty in talking about Barney, or getting, kind of rattled when people say, like, oh, you couldn't get away with that, today, and you're like, we weren't trying to get away with it back then. We were holding it up for a kind of mockery, or a kind of we never wanted people to be on the side of him, but that's also a testament to Neil's seductive powers. He played him as such seductive, charming guy that
charming, so likable. He humanized the role, and the journey with Barney over 9 seasons was to humanize him and see the kind of the broken parts of him that led him to be that way, and to show some amount of evolution. But of course, people like picking out the fun parts, right? Picking out the sort of like literal, like, the bro code, let's talk about the bro code. And it's great. Like it's fine if people want to watch it that way. But I suspect it feels to Carter and I, as the creators of the show, probably kind of like when Bruce Springsteen hears people thinking Born in the USA is a patriotic song.
Right.
And you realize that people have not listened to one word of anything but the chorus, Born in the USA. They've just heard those few words, and the rest of the words just go by completely unnoticed under the radar. And if you read them, or if you study those words, they are very much not a paid. They're a searing critique of America and war and the economic realities and how we treat our veterans. And like, it's an amazing song that's completely misunderstood. And Bruce Springsteen must be out of his mind for 40 years. Like, this is not what this is. And sometimes it's that way with Barney. And somehow we got here from gender stuff, but I guess it still relates, right? We're still on topic. But,
No, I think it's a big thing to discuss. And he was emblematic of it. I also think there's something fun about watching people behave terribly. I remember Wes Craven said something about, like, we horror movies don't provoke bad behavior, they actually replace it. Like, it allows us to experience our shadow in a collective way that's actually quite healthy, right? Yes. And I think, sometimes we can watch. I mean, it's just fun to watch characters misbehave because we know we would never do that. You know, I think like what's his face? Ricky Gervais has talked about like how uncomfortable he is personally making people feel uncomfortable. And creating The Office allowed him to play a character that just walks right into the propeller blades all the time.
Yeah.
But it was something that he couldn't bear doing in his real life. So he got to do it in a fictional way and kind of work it out that way. And I think,
totally,
you know, that's part of the joy of Barney is he seems to be unshackled by certain societal mores that I at least have agreed to, and you guys have agreed to them. And not to say that I would want to behave like Barney if I was given the choice. I actually wouldn't. But there's something, you know, I had a wonderful drama teacher in college. Harleen Marley was her name. She was a real mentor to me. But she always said, you know, all plays are about sex and money. That's all any play is about, you know, and there was never any kind of virtue or moralizing around it. It was always like, can you just highlight the darker, grosser, ugly, you know, the dark underbelly of these characters? Like, that's what we really want to watch. And I think we do go to the theater and watch TV. Yes, we love virtue, but there's also, you know, we don't trust a story, I think, that doesn't mix dark and light.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
Craig, you were just at your alma mater, Wesleyan University.
My God, our first road trip as a podcast. It's a trial by fire. You got it. Every podcast has to at some point get on the road.
Take it on the road. Yeah.
Take the show on the road, like vaudeville of yore. You've got to go prove yourself in the small towns. In this case, Middletown, Connecticut. Carter Bays, my writing partner, and I met. How I met Carter. We met at Wesleyan University. That's where I went to college from 1993 to 1997 because we old. That's why that worked. That's how that works. And we didn't meet at the beginning of college, but we became bandmates sort of in the middle of college. We were in a 9-man soul band, and there was a horn section, and we all wore really cheap thrift store suits. Alek Lev, our producer, was at probably every one of our shows, I would think, because he was my housemate and roommate and dorm mate all 4 years. Although sometimes you forget that I even went to college. We'll talk about that again at some point.
How long had it been since you've been on campus before we went?
We did, Carter and I, after HIMYM ended, did like sort of a Q&A HIMYM related panel there. But that's already like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We're part of some other like panel of like a bunch of other people like Wesleyan Media, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But it's been literally years. And it's also where I met my wife, Rebecca, who is sort of the basis for Lily. And of course, we had all of these wonderful characters from How I Met Your Mother. We made their backstory. They went and met at Wesleyan. And it's still a big part of their life. So that's why we decided this would be our first road trip.
Look, How I Met Your Mother fans they all feel a kind of ownership of the show because it's so deeply now in their bloodstream. Yeah. But I'll tell you, when Wesleyan grads come up to me, they say it like, I went to Wesleyan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't. But,
you were the closest to having gone to Wesleyan.
I'm the closest to having gone to Wesleyan who didn't go to Wesleyan. But what's it like? What was it like to just step onto campus and realize like, wow, I'm not 20 anymore?
Oh yeah, no, you feel it. You really, really feel it. You kind of feel like you're still that person, but then you see people who really are 19 and 20, and you realize like, yeah, that's not me anymore.
Yeah.
But yes, we all got to do this, and we were on the road. And there was no flaws to the plan, and we did everything right, Josh? Well, There's nothing we didn't think of?
I don't know if there was no flaws to the plan, Craig, because you just...
Well, what do you mean?
Well, you were in Connecticut, and then you stayed in Connecticut a little while longer,
Yeah,
right?
I stayed there.
Yeah, well, what was going on with your place back home?
I was just sitting here not making me any money, or what?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh?
Exactly.
Oh, and that's bad?
Yeah. You should be making money on your place every time you leave.
Well, Josh, what should I have done? What should I have done if I
think we've been over this, and I think you know what you should have done, and I want you to say it. I want you to say it.
Okay, you know what? This is like I'm not going to learn unless I say it.
Yeah.
This is like, okay, I'm going to say it, and this time it's really going to stick. Guys, while I was away, And while any of you are away, here's what you could have done. Here's what I could have done. I could have hosted my place on Airbnb and made a little extra cash, right? That's what I should have done. I'm man enough to admit it now in retrospect. You got to think of this before, though. You don't want to look back with regret. Guys, your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
I was also just thinking about two characters in television, Archie Bunker and Sam Malone, who are deeply, especially Archie, but deeply dark. And Sam Malone and Barney have clear similarities. And as a Cheers fan, this must have been on your mind.
It's my favorite show of all time. So I would say that we were, and Carter's too. So we should probably be sued for how similar the characters are in some ways. I really James Burrows, I don't think he's got that much money, so he should probably sue me and Carter. I think it's probably a good idea. No, but seriously, like, I was thinking too, Michael, like in those articles, sometimes I see an article, you can't get, like, just like you said, Josh, they wouldn't be able to get away with Barney today. And sometimes I see that same thing about like Michael Scott, about, that character. And it's like, again, I don't think they were advocating for any boss to behave like Michael Scott. I don't think that was Steve Carell's aim or the creators of The Office's aim.
They're on the side of the looks to the camera.
They're
like,
looking, they're the
believe
looks to the
this
camera.
guy.
Yes.
That's where they want you to live, your sympathies to live there.
And we are in the reaction shots to the other characters reacting to Barney. That's where Carter and I are on that side. But when Barney gets to show that he's really a human being underneath it all, I think, and same thing with Michael Scott, I think there's such value to that. And it can be very moving, right? When you get a little peek, when you realize there's a human underneath the Darth Vader costume, it's like, it's very powerful to realize that.
My mom used to say, if kids can't get good attention, they'll get bad attention, right? Like there's always, I've heard it said that everything we say is either an expression of love or a cry for love, and it feels like Barney is just crying for love. It just comes out in such strange ways,
Yeah.
Well, question 2.
Our answer there was longer than Charlotte's term paper for the.
Our answer there was longer than the episode of the limo. It was longer than an actual limo. Hey,
that's great. All right. Well, hard turn here. We obviously have a lot of people who are very, very interested in the Get Psyched mix with "Living on a Prayer," not "Living on a Prayer." With help me, what's the Bon Jovi song that?
You Give Love a Bad Name. Living on a Prayer, also a great song, but You Give Love a Bad Name.
Also great. Living on a Prayer starts a little slowly, so you probably
it doesn't have that punch at the beginning. That's why we didn't use that.
But a lot of people want to hear about that. People are telling me on the internet that somewhere there's a screenshot of the full mix, and the internet has figured out what all the songs are.
Yes.
One person mentions, I searched the full list. Raphael Saldano07 says, I searched the full list of Barney's Get Psyched mix, and one of the tracks was the Transformers theme. I would love to hear.
Wait, I have a question about that. So if there's a shot of that, did you and Carter or any writer write that out, or is that Dave Baker, our props guy?
We wrote it out. I can't remember. We definitely did like a Barney's blog, I think, at the time, or something where we just put the list out there somehow.
And is that something you crowdsource? Like, would you give that to the associate or the assistant writers?
I think the writers' assistants might have written it up. We probably pitched the room probably pitched on like, what are other songs would it be? And we probably said the writers' assistants and script coordinator, like, can you go write a Barney's blog of this? Can you write something where we put this out there somehow, what this is? And I've seen people recreate it on Spotify. There's like lists of it. I think there might have been some discrepancies and errors because I think the case had a list and people zoomed in on it, and I think some of it was wrong. I think maybe it had the wrong first song even on it. The prop itself was not actually the list, I think, that we put out. So there's just some discrepancies there. But
I would like to give a shout out to the How I Met Your Mother sleuths, the Mosby boys of the How I Met Your Mother verse, which are incredible. Like, I remember when Selena Gomez posted a shot of kind of, you could see she was watching How I Met Your Mother, and it was just the 5 of us around the table. And I remember I reposted it and I said, what episode is this? You know, and it had there was nothing overly signifying what episode it was,
clues.
other than I think what clothes we were wearing. And all these people wrote me back, and they're like, "That's so and so. Like that's this episode."
That's wild.
Wow. Right? I mean, it's.
I don't know if
wild.
I could have said what season it was.
I
personally.
know. But also shout out to Selena Gomez.
Big
we
time.
would love to have you on the show and talk about How I Met Your Mother. We know you like it, so.
We are honored.
Anytime,
you're a fan.
anytime.
Come talk to us.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm looking here. There's many versions of what's on the Get Psyched mix. People have posted this, but I can see You Give Love a Bad Name. I see Don't Stop Believing, the Transformers theme song, Jesse's Girl,
Transformers
Runaway.
theme song. Come on.
I know,
that's a
that's
Get
solid.
Psyched song.
You know what I just saw, Craig? Do you know that the SNL sketch where Rick Springfield is trying to lay down Jesse's Girl, and it's the drummer. His drummer is Jesse, and his girlfriend's sitting there, and he's like playing it, and the drummer's like, "What are you saying?" He's like, "Come on, man, it's just a song."
That's so funny.
It's so
no,
funny.
I've never seen that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
But Severin, Willie 99, and so many others would like to know what songs are on your personal Get Psyched list. Maybe one or two you want to throw our way?
What song psychs you up no matter what? You know what's my driving Get Psyched mix? If I like really have a long drive and I know it's going to be like open road, you can't play this. You can't hit play on this when you get in the car and you're in the city and then you're in gridlock because it just feels like ironic and sad.
Yeah.
But The Joshua Tree by U2.
Oh, yes.
Greatest driving album
You're right.
ever made.
You're right.
That is the Get Psychedest driving album of all time.
Yes.
And as I drive, personally for me, I lean right into it as I'm heading east on the 10 towards Joshua Tree. There's no...
You do that. Yeah.
100%.
I remember driving to Joshua Tree one time, listening to Joshua Tree, but you have to know you have some highway because I've made the mistake of getting on like, I'm in, this is New York City. All right, we're going away for the weekend. Joshua Tree, where the streets have no name. Let's do this. And you just stop in traffic and it's like, I want to run. And you're like, no, I'm standing still, Bono. I'm running to stand still, Josh. This is why I love you.
Well, also the Joshua Tree, which is an all-timer for me, is you do not want to shuffle that. It is perfectly ordered too.
Oh my God.
Like every song is in the right place.
You can't excerpt a song. You have to listen to the whole album. Yeah.
And then if I listen to all of Joshua Tree, I'm like, I think I'm going Unforgettable Fire. Like I'll just roll backwards.
Yeah.
Stopped. I was so into U2, like in 8th grade, 9th grade. I was so deep. And Joshua Tree, I got off the boat. Was Rattle and a Hum right after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got into that record. Like I just left the U2 fold after that. But those early records are some of my favorite things ever.
Oh my God. But the funny thing is though, I got so obsessed with Joshua Tree that I never fully embraced any other Hold Order album. Like even though I love Octane Baby, I love some of those early ones, Joshua Tree, I would put it up with Abbey Road. It's like one of the, that's another great one to drive to, by the way, because it will kill that 50 minutes, however long it is, because you could just roll through it. So I'm like more of a Get Psyched album dude, I think, than a Get Psyched song.
Isn't it weird that a band like U2, they couldn't be bigger, and yet they're somehow underrated all at the same time?
Yes.
like it's a strange phenomenon. Like they're better than you think they are in weird ways. Like they, and I think, it's hard when things become so popular and they're around for so long. They kind of like, you stop appreciating them because they're a little bit in the background rattle and hum. I've got a couple of like bigger deep cuts, like Fugees and Lauryn Hill, like really get me going. And there's a song by Trevor Hall called Indigo that I love so much that I could listen to whenever it comes on. I won't take it off. There's also an early Genesis song called Follow You, Follow Me. Do you know that tune?
I don't know that tune.
Oh my God. It's so good. Do you ever have a song that kind of like you'll hear it in a taxi or like it comes to you right when you need it?
Yes.
That
song will find you when you need it.
It's like a hand on the shoulder from God song, like where you're like, I needed to be reminded, like I'm cared for and it's a benevolent universe. Thank you, Phil Collins and Genesis. That one for me really, really does it. I'm sure I have so many, but
Under Pressure, David Bowie, Queen. That one will find me sometimes at the
Young
right
Americans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's another great door-to-door Get Psyched album to bring this full circle? And I don't think we're ending the episode on this, but Born in the USA. I just listened to an album on a drive door to door. holy crap, that's good.
Yeah.
Like Joshua Tree, there's not a bad one. There's no mess, and it's a perfectly ordered
Do you know what
sequence.
else is an incredible Springsteen album that is worth a revisit is The Rising?
Oh yeah, that's a really good album.
Yeah.
You kind of forget about that one because it felt later. Remember, it was like later Springsteen, but it's still 25 years ago somehow.
Yeah.
It's like The Simpsons. Like, there's no later said. Like, The Simpsons is like, there's only the middle of The Simpsons at this point.
Right, it's all middle.
Well, let's just wrap this up here with a little talk about Ted for a second here. Brian_Nar says, was the perfect New Year's Eve concept meant to satirize how much pressure people put on the holiday, or was it more about Ted's optimism and need for control?
It's a good question. I think the latter. I think Ted's need for control, because that's the condition of the start of that episode, and Ted's sort of progress in the episode is to relinquish control and say the party's just right here. We don't have to stick to the schedule.
Also, I think it's doing both of those things. Like, I think good art is operating on multiple levels. Like, everything that the questioner just asked, all of that's in there. So I don't know that you can reduce it to like, okay, it was really about this. No, it was about all those things.
It kind of was all those things.
But I think New Year's Eve is actually a perfect holiday to put Ted under the microscope for, because
it is.
It is a night that is so fraught with expectation and planning, and also
making future plans,
making future plans and lists and saying goodbye. Like, Ted is so sentimental about time and the passage of time, and chapters ending and new chapters beginning. Like, he really does mark things, and he gets very nostalgic, but he also has this unshakable optimism about what's ahead. So But I also think, some of that he had to be disabused of as the show went on. I mean, so much. I'm shocked at how much of this first season is about Ted's need to plan and control things. Yeah. And Barney trying to shake him out of that, but really the whole show shaking him out of this overly determined life. And it's asking him to not surrender control entirely, but at least partner, like do a dance more with the universe, which I think he has to learn.
People will dance.
People will dance. I'm not going to worry about it.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alek Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love?